Inconceivable!
Hi guys, and welcome to day 2 of Inconceivable. We are here with the prop gods, the Hollywood prop gods, Nathan Longest and Alex Choate. Now, also, I want to reach out to our sponsor. This convention is proudly sponsored by Millennium Comics. Please just go and see them in the vendor store. They're a fantastic store, and they've got lots and lots of bits and pieces for you. But make sure you check out the vendors and check out the stores on Inconceivable. So here we go. Okay, I'm going to introduce to us now our two amazing prop builders and fabricators. So we have, there we go, we're back on gallery view. So to my left we have Nathan Longest, who is currently working on several fantastic props, which I'm not sure if he can show us or he can allude to, but he will let us know what he can and can't tell us about. And then down the bottom, here, we have Alex Choate, who is also, again, can't really talk about what he's working on, but he can allude to a few bits and pieces. But these guys are the ones that actually make the movies happen. So the props, the sets, the bits and pieces, the costumes. So there's a lot of people involved in it, but these two guys specifically take care of a lot of the actual props, the guns, the little bits and pieces, the jewelry, the necklaces, all the little things that make up the actor's costume and props. So
absolutely.
All right, Nathan, tell us a little bit about yourself.
Live in Los Angeles, work in the film industry. I moved out from Virginia over on the East Coast of the United States in order to pursue a career in the film industry. Initially, I actually went to school for character animation and 3D modeling, and moved out here for a job with Sony ImageWorks, which is a visual effects company that makes a lot of stuff. And so I was on their render tech team for the first year and a half that I lived out here. And I worked on The Amazing Spider-Man and Smurfs 3D.
Hey, I like Smurfs. Smurfs is good.
You know what? It was a lot better than I would have guessed, honestly. So I didn't get a chance. I don't know. I like Neil Patrick Harris too. But yeah. So while I was working there, I kind of got interested in a girl. No, but she was a cosplayer and needed some props, and I just kind of picked that up as a hobby while I was working for Sony, and then they moved their whole facility to Canada, and I was kind of left I don't want to move to another country. I just moved 3,000 miles away. So
hey guys, we just got a little bit of a technical issue for some unknown reason. There we go. Sorry everybody, I clicked on the wrong screen. So all right, so we are actually going now. This is
well, were we not going before?
We had a technical issue yesterday morning where I forgot to turn the audio on, but I had the video going. This time we had the wrong screen.
No big deal. I mean, a lot of interesting going on right here. So
a lot of interesting.
But
so okay, let me reintroduce. We got Nathan Longest over here, and we got Alex Choate down here. All right, guys. Now Continue on, please. They were listening intently, but
So yeah, so Sony left for Vancouver, and I stayed here, and started throwing out job applications for both props and character animation,
Mhm.
and just ended up in props. I ended up mentoring under a dude named Paul Pearson, who was a prop fabricator from, I mean, shoot, he started working for George Barris, who's the original designer of the 60s Batmobile, when he was 12. When he was 12 years old, he won a model making contest that George Barris hosted, and he brought him in to work in his custom car shop. And he ended up moving on to Universal Studios, I think at 17, like left high school. He used to tell me stories that in high school he made more money than his teachers, so they used to yell at him and be like, "I make more than you," and just storm out. Classic Paul thing to do. But yeah, so he used to run a shop back in the 90s called Proper Effects. They actually did all of the like network Star Trek series props
Mhm.
and stuff like that. I'm not actually sure the specific series names, but he said that there were 17 seasons that they did, and for several different shows that were happening concurrently. So anyway, so yeah, I worked in his shop for about a year and a half, and then he set me up with the company that I work with now, that he formerly was the foreman of back in the 80s.
Mhm.
And just been a really weird sort of career path there. I went to school for art, but I never worked basically outside of a computer. And then I went straight into 100% traditional shop manufacturing techniques with no computers. And then I was like, hey, you should do this with some computers. So I spent 15 grand on a laser cutter, having never used one before, and leased it to his shop. And then that just kind of changed how he built stuff, how I built stuff, how I looked at building stuff. And then I don't know, snowballed into that. So
Mm.
now I just do that for more money, I guess.
Well, you are. Oh, you have
Yeah.
been. Well, Alex has told me that you're a bit of a laser expert, so I'm going to definitely have
Yeah.
to hit you up for some hints and bits and pieces because I've got to recalibrate my 50-watt CO2 laser.
Okay. Yeah. Yeah. No, I've worked with a number of laser cutters now, so it's one of my favorite tools. I actually think that you can do more with a shop with just a hand router and a laser cutter than almost any other combination of tools, 3D printers included, honestly. But
Mm.
very powerful tools. So
Hmm. All
yeah.
right, Alex, tell us about
Uh,
you.
I actually went to college for acting. I have a fucking bachelor of fine arts in acting,
That's cool.
and did some work in New York and in Vegas, and then all through college I was working in the scene shop, and they would like drag me in to do props whenever whoever was designing props was overloaded.
Mm-hmm.
So I got pretty decent at that. But I really started as a 4-year-old painting Warhammer 40K minis because we had a games workshop in the
Oh,
front
cool.
of my parents' office, and they gave me some minis and paints and went, "Leave our customers alone." Uh, and
I mean,
eventually, the
expensive.
customers were, yeah, they were coming in and like looking at my stuff and going like, "Hey, how much would you charge me to paint like this squad of corn berserkers?" And I just started painting stuff professionally as a kid for money,
Nice.
which I
Yeah.
then turned around and spent in that Games Workshop buying Star Wars cards.
I used to
Oh,
collect. Are you talking about the prequels? They had that series. Like, was
No,
it
it was the original
early 2000s?
trilogy.
Okay. All right.
There actually was like a Yoda card that everyone wanted when they released it, and I actually got one, and like people were offering me $200 as a six
Oh
year old
man. Oh yeah.
for a card.
That's the best feeling. I used to do
Yeah.
baseball cards, Pokemon cards. Man, I had all those. I loved it.
Uh, yeah, but when I moved back to LA, I was actually mostly doing theater. A local equity company hired me as a props master,
mm-hmm.
and then I eventually evolved the position into props designer because a lot of these packages that they would rent were like massively broken or had tons of missing pieces. So I started designing bits and elements, and I really kind of came into my own when we did Mary Poppins because everything needed to have lights integrated into it. We
Mm-hmm.
needed these like 12-foot long lamp lighters that were controlled by the actors, had their own power supplies built into them.
Mm-hmm.
I had to design a bunch of magic tricks for the show.
Oh, cool.
So from there, I jumped into doing film. I actually met a producer who saw a show that I designed, and she hired me to design her short film. And then that turned into hiring me to design their whole short film compilation, which was 13 films
Oh wow.
in 2 months.
In 2 months.
So it was, yeah. So I was every day I was just like not sleeping, just chunking out stuff for all these films. And then I designed 3 of the episodes for Dark Web with Zelda Williams, Bowman Modine, and Roxy Shipp. It was great though. Like it very much just kind of dropped into this, and it's nowhere near what I thought I was going to do. And now I paint superhero costumes.
Awesome. Did you mention Black Lightning earlier?
Maybe.
Okay. Are you on that right now? Because I just made something for that like 2 weeks ago.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. Lights up blue.
I know exactly what that's.
We'll just leave that one. I know everyone's just like hanging off every word right now.
Actually, that's the only. I wasn't
come
familiar
out
with the show before that.
Shall not be spoken of. So
That's
speaking about things that have come out. Now I know both of you have worked on quite a famous Disney show that's kicking around at the moment, and so
Lady and the Tramp.
Yeah. The live action remake.
I'm now
gonna cry.
we made stunt breadsticks and stunt candles at the dinner scene so that the flame wouldn't blow out. Or gas.
I made the trick spaghetti so it would pull apart.
See, he doesn't know, but they replaced spaghetti with the breadsticks. That's why we made the stunt breadsticks.
I'm not allowed to swear. I'm not allowed to swear. So, all right. But yes, you've both worked on a series recently that is a lot of people are wanting to know all about. And behind Alex's head is a couple of little bits and pieces that look really familiar.
I don't know what you're talking about.
But look, I mean, if you can say anything about it, tell me any little stories, bits and pieces of maybe stuff you put together, or horror stories from the that situation, or any horror stories. Let's start with. We'll come back to that one because I think eventually you might actually let me know what's going on, but.
I got something to say about the pistols behind him, actually.
Okay.
Because this is unrelated to my work on the show entirely, only by the fact that I just recognized the person. But I happened to be in a gun store in Los Angeles and recognized the prop master of the show, and he was there buying that gun.
The Bergman.
So, yeah, that in a collection of other, World War II.
Like you do.
Weird, yeah, the Star Wars series. They're famous for using their, antique, bizarre boutique guns. So
yeah.
I was just like, wait a second, I know you. And then coincidentally, he was, I can't even go into that side of the story. But yeah, ran into him at a gun store buying it. So thought that was kind of funny. There's only one in Los Angeles where I live anyway, so it's if you need to go to a gun store, that's where you go.
I know exactly which one you're talking about. The one that had lines wrapping around it a couple
If you
months
want
ago.
to run into props masters, just hang out front of the store.
Yeah.
Or either of you two. So anyway, okay, let's tell me about your first gig in prop making.
Let's see. I mean, in prop making, it wasn't necessarily for film and television, but it was for Paul, like I mentioned earlier. He owns a little shop called Custom Movie Props Incorporated. I always hated that name, but yeah, they mostly made trade show stuff. So like big displays, like we'd make product replicas that were oversized and stuff like that. And occasionally he would get like a call from one of his old buddies that worked in film, but he kind of jumped out of film to work in real estate for a while. So he lost a lot of those contacts. But if you want to know first like movie job, it was still through him. Or not movie job, it was a television show. Teen Wolf, I think, was on MTV.
Oh, I remember Teen Wolf. That was great. That was Michael J. Fox, wasn't it?
Yeah. Not that one. I'm only 32.
Okay. Oh, the remake of the remake of the remake. I forgot you really young.
Well, it was the television series on MTV, I think. We just made some like silver bullets that killed werewolves. I turned them out of aluminum on a lathe. It was nothing spectacular. That's the thing, is it always ramped up to the cool stuff. Never started out cool, but
Alex.
That's what it was.
God, the first thing I made props for and got paid money was a production of Kiss Me Kate with that equity company that hired me. And I need to make like trick knives and stuff for one number, and that's where like half of my budget went. And then like a bunch of fake food. Like I needed to make a big rack of like a comically large thing, spare ribs. And I literally just like grabbed some foam from a computer that I'd bought and like glued it together and then wrapped it up in garbage or not garbage bags, grocery bags. Then took a heat gun to it and just sprayed the living hell out of it. And
I
then
suppose that would have looked like
hot
ribs,
glue
yeah.
to make like all the marrow coming out of the bones and stuff. Like it was ridiculous and fast and choppy.
That's fun.
And then I think the first film that I did stuff for was weirdly one I was acting in too. And it's one of the first films in Fun Size Horror Volume 1, where I play an asshole delivery guy. And I all the stuff that is in that film is actually my stuff from my house.
My whole house is screen use props.
Honestly, yeah, my whole living room is just like different screen use props. Like I've got radios from different films that I've put it in and stuff like that.
That's awesome.
It's a collector's dream in both your houses. It's like,
Oh, yeah.
just imagine, sort of like, Hoarders TV just walks in there with a bunch of, prop collectors. It's like, check this out. No, you can't have it.
They come in and just go like, why do you have like 6 clothing racks disassembled in the front sitting room?
I've got a lot of really interesting weapons that just are hung on the wall in the living room, and people always get weirded out until I tell them what it's for, and they're like, oh, well, I mean, yeah, you would hang
it's
that.
slightly less concerning now.
So I always wanted to have a batleth hanging on the wall. So, just a great big Klingon batleth.
It's never too late.
I know it's never too late. Now I've got
cake mode, man. Some sheet aluminum and a trim router. You're good to go.
That'd be good. All right, I'll take you up on that. You can teach me how. So, all right, now tell me, what is your biggest horror story from a prop or a show?
I almost don't even want to go first on this one because I block them out. Yeah, I don't know, man. It's such a blur. I feel like it's a different mindset for me because I love it. I love what I do, and I think it's a super interesting line of work. But it was never something that I like yearned for and had like. So for, I guess what I'm trying to get at is, to me at the end, to some extent, it's kind of just a job. So it's like, just, it's a bad day at work, then it was just, a bad day at work. I don't know. And the only ones that would really stand out, I couldn't really get into, just because it would like Alex was saying earlier, it would specifically incriminate people. But I could go into general things that I just dislike, which I think would probably cover most of the stories I would have to tell, which is just the amount of screwing around with time that people do in the film industry. They like to take their time to give you answers. They like to just remove time from your builds. And it's just constantly battling time, and it never seems like it was justifiably worth it. It always just seems like somebody just got lazy, or somebody just didn't tell somebody something correctly, or just miscommunication. And it's just, but it's constant. It's literally unfathomably constant. Like, you would think at some point you'd get a break and people would be like, you know what, people are going to do their job for 2 weeks straight. Like, coming back from COVID, you'd think, hey, we just had 8 months off, let's do it correctly. No, it was in day one it was right back to it. And it's just like, it bums you out sometimes. So that's my horror story.
List of things to make now.
Yeah, well, and it's they're constantly just pulling the rug out from under you on deadlines and time and money, just everything. So I'd say it's the general malaise that comes to the industry, because I feel like that's in every department across the industry, probably across the world in all job industries. But
at least it's easier on scenic, because you literally can do nothing without your scenic element.
Yeah, I mean, but still, they'll try.
Yeah, they will try.
So, yeah, but that's me.
Alex.
I'm going to go with
story.
the one that doesn't incriminate anyone and actually just posed a massive challenge for me. We did a PSA, I think like 5 or 6 years ago, where I needed to make like a rocket that looks like a kid and like his dad made it. And it had like fake controllers and stuff in it, so it had to fully light up inside, and it had to look like it was made out of cardboard and look like a stiff breeze really could have broken it. But it had to be super sturdy because this kid got inside of it into a rocker chair and actually faced forward in the rocket. And I had no budget. So I scrounged through all of my theaters and found like an old sonotube that we used to make a pillar, repainted the whole thing, and then like was sending photos to our director and producer and camera department. And they're like, hey, can we get some points that we can point the camera in through? And I was like, what? They're like, yeah, we really want to like point the camera in from the back so that we can look at the kid's face and look out the door. And I was like, and we don't want to see any rivets. Okay, yeah, it's fine. So I had to cut like 8 different portholes in this thing that all sealed back up and had to be completely seamless on the exterior. And so like on the day, I made everything with 1/4 turn bolts so that it pulled off and the camera could go in, and then we'd pop it, or we'd like lock it all back up. And the thing was just full of screws on the inside that all had to get like cut down so that this poor kid didn't just get ripped to shreds.
Oh man.
And we get to it, and then like we get to the day that I have to set up, and I pull my van up to my shop, and I just go, how am I going to fit this thing in the van? Because it's 12 feet long.
Oh, yeah.
So I ended up cramming it into the van and letting the back end hang out of the back of the van by like 5 feet. And I just ratchet strapped it onto my van and drove from my house out to our shooting location, which is like an hour and a half away. And I get there, and there's like all the PAs are already there at 7 a.m. And I pull up in my van that has no power steering, no power brakes. And I go, hey, who wants to help me get this rocket into the backyard? And like 3 of them just turned and walked away from me. And 2 of them were like, hey, we heard you need help. And I was like, yeah, we need to get this like 300-pound rocket set piece into the backyard.
Oh my God.
And we got it into the backyard, and it was a super dewy day. So like we slipped getting it back there, and like one kid busted a hip, and but we eventually got this thing going, and it was just like the whole thing was a nightmare. At the end of the production, like the kid's mom was like, hey, can we buy this rocket from you? I'm like, if you can truck it away, it's yours.
Yeah,
like, oh,
right.
No, we were hoping you'd deliver it. I went, I'm throwing it away.
I'll deliver it as far as right there.
Yeah. If you want it, it'll be right there, and then it's all yours. I ended up cutting the thing in half and throwing it into the van, and then like backing up to a dumpster and just throwing it all away.
That's classic movie prop disposal technique right there.
Yeah.
So
that was one of the like roughest things I'd ever had.
It almost takes the next question like as well. It's like, what's the weirdest thing you've ever made?
That's not even close to it.
Oh God!
Dude,
Okay,
I don't even know where I would start.
Nathan, you're up.
You have to start classifying what you think is weird, because it could get so weird. There's a show called Future Man that we had to make replica, not raccoons, possum penises. So I don't know if you knew this, but they split into 2, and that's weird. I mean, God, I don't even. It's so hard. Like, I don't know if you've ever heard of or seen a show called Scorpion. It was a network television show that was truly terrible.
Producer.
Oh, bro,
I like that series for the first season. And then it just kept going downhill.
I mean, it coined its own like nickname in our shop, because if something was just so utterly ridiculous, we would just start to ask if it was for Scorpion, even after it got canceled. Like to this day, if it's that done, be like, Scorpion, get greenlit again. Because I remember, they had, what was one of them? They had us make a blow dart gun that could shoot a duct taped bundle of needles of injection
needles.
Hypodermic needles, thank you. So he duct taped them together, bundled them up, and used it as a blow dart to pierce the oil tank of a Ferrari that was driving by him. And I'm like, that's like one of them was they wanted to shoot a can in a tinfoil straight up into the air to create some sort of EMP that would like block a satellite or something. We bought 30 microwaves new in the box from Walmart. Like, I have a picture somewhere in my library of a pallet of microwaves that we bought. And we took the magnetrons out of all of them. To this day, I don't understand why they needed to be real. And we bolted them to a board, and they like pointed that at a satellite or something and shot out of the sky. And I don't know, stuff like that's weird to me, because it's just like, I'm just imagining a writer's room where somebody was like, yeah, this is great.
Oh man, that's perfect.
So there's stuff like that, but then there's just there's the sexual weird. I mean, I worked on like American Horror Story has some weird stuff, nail guns that shoot people in the head, and just that kind of weird. That scene actually really got under my skin too in the show. Like, it was extremely violent for something that was on network television or regular television. But yeah, I don't know. It gets weird, but I would say that the ones that really stand out in my head are mostly sexual, so we'll probably just won't get into those.
Yeah,
but
no.
If you ever see people playing with weird stuff like that, that's, I got to make stuff like that all the time. So, the show Kidding with Jim Carrey needed some pickle-shaped vibrators. There was another show on Netflix. What was it? We had to make the dildo. They use it on their banner in Netflix. Grace and Frankie, is that it?
Oh yeah.
Yeah. That whole show is built, or is the story is written around two older women that decide to start a vibrator company. So we made that vibrator
for women with arthritis.
Yes, yeah, I remember them asking, like, make the knob able to be gripped by like elderly hands, and I'm like, okay. It's funny. My mom's
the stat sheet on these props, like, the brief on them must be insane. It's like,
yeah. Everybody gets a kick out of it, but I mean, most of the people that I'm the youngest person I work with, so most of the people I work with have been doing this. I mean, some of them were making movies that I wasn't even old enough to see in theaters. So, like my direct manager made the piece of amber that was used in the Jurassic Park cane, and the Barbasol can, like they worked on Predator and Goonies and stuff like that.
Oh.
So they've seen it all and done it all. They worked on all the Austin Powers movies. They made the penis-shaped gold key, and all that kind of stuff. And that was listed as something pretty profane on the job board, as I've been told. So yeah, I mean, that stuff. Hey, if you see it in a movie, somebody's got to make it.
Somebody's got to make it somewhere.
And honestly, even if it's not like a featured thing, you end up making so many phallic things in this industry. Like, if you've been doing this for more than like 5 years, you've made at least a handful of them.
Yep.
All right, Alex.
No doubt about it.
What is the weirdest thing you've ever made?
Space chicken bucket for KFC when we put that chicken sandwich in space.
Good one.
That's not even a joke. We put a chicken sandwich into space for KFC. I did this ad campaign, and we actually took the Zinger crispy chicken sandwich spicy thing, and we had to do like a whole bunch of break tests with it. So we put it in like a vacuum chamber for a week, and then we put it in like a sub-zero chamber for a week, and then we blasted it with heat and see what it could handle. And we put it into space. But it had to have a bucket that could handle going into space. So like we did one that was 3D printed out of aerospace epoxy, which cost way more money than I think it should have. And then we ended up settling on one that was 3D printed out of nylon, because it's fine. It'll handle extreme temperatures.
Yeah. Plus, I mean, it's not like you're looking to eat this chicken, right? So it's
but then our team in Sao Paulo assembled most of this, and so it had like an arm that was actually made from an old Chrysler antenna that came out and had a selfie, or had a what are they called, GoPro attached to it, so it could take selfies, and then retract back in. It had a little flag on a scissor arm that popped out with the Colonel's face on it. And it also had a beeper, so you could text this thing or send tweets to it, and it would display the tweets. And it had a camera just on that pager to display the tweets. That is the weirdest thing. Oh, it also had a bunch of sub-micro LEDs to light that thing under any circumstances.
Yeah.
Weirdest thing I've ever worked on. Final answer.
Final answer. Well, truly.
That's a weird one.
That takes the cake.
And I remember sitting in the space agency that was based in Arizona and hand painting this thing before we got all of our glamour shots.
That's bizarre.
It was so much fun, but it was also so strange.
Dude, that's America right there. We just
It is,
launch chicken
it is.
into space and people die by
Yeah,
the thousands.
we could spend all this money and feed people who don't have food, but no, let's put a chicken sandwich
Yeah.
into space.
We'll
All
feed the dummy inside of Elon Musk's car that's floating towards Mars right now.
Oh.
You know, a little sandwich on the way.
On that note, Nathan, superhero moments on set or in the workshop, etc. So you've got the crunch time, you're making a prop or whatever it is, and you have a superhero moment. Literally, that's. Tell us about it.
So
Pick one out of
you
the
know,
trillions.
Right. Oh yeah, happens every day. So all right. So here's how it happens, right? So I got this great idea, and I'm like, you know what? This is gonna save the company just tons of money, tons of time, right? So I'll present it to my boss, and I'll be like, listen, look at this idea. This is really great. He'll be like, get back to work.
That's it.
No, yeah.
So much
yeah,
for
no,
the
you don't.
superhero moment. Dun dun
Well,
dun.
I mean, how
And-
about I don't know this one? If you watch the gallery, which was the behind the scenes of the Mandalorian, was it Kathleen Kennedy herself said that they originally were going to use the IG-11 puppet that we built as just camera reference, and then they were so happy with it on set that they ended up using it in camera for a lot of the series. They attached puppeting rigs to it and all sorts of stuff. So
There you go.
That's a
Superhero
win.
moment. That's a win. That's a big
yeah.
one.
I mean, that's the shop wide. It's not like I was alone in that, but
You, the
that's-
shop, you're,
yeah. So I don't know. That's a moment that feels good.
And that thing was like torso up, right? And it was
Oh, we-
mounted on a rolling C-stand.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay, we made legs for it too.
Yeah.
But for the most part, the puppeted scenes, it was on the stand like that. And also, if you look at the pictures, you'll probably put together that behind the scenes pictures, I should say. I'm trying not to give away stuff that only I would know. But if you look at behind the scenes pictures, you'll notice that puppet is tremendously bigger than the character that is in the show. So he's more the size of the actual IG-11 puppet or IG-88 puppet from the original series. Which is in over 8 feet tall kind of thing. So,
Yeah.
but that's a little tall for like an average character on a television series. So we'll get into that.
Well, it's weird when all your characters are looking up like this to talk to you.
Yeah, and 8 feet is tall.
So there's a picture on your Facebook page. Can I on your Facebook profile? Can I show that one?
Which one is it?
It's
Probably.
It's of the I can screen share this. Hang on one second.
I mean, more than likely it. Yeah. I mean, that's from the gallery series.
Okay.
Yeah. So
that's the one you were talking about, or is that the different? That's the
I mean, that is the puppet that we made.
Okay.
Yeah.
Fantastic.
Yeah. No, you can share that because that is a screen capture from. Well, let me put it this way: Disney is the one that would allow you to be able to share that. That doesn't belong to me, but that's not my private photograph either. So.
And looking at this piece, like you look at how cleverly this was originally designed, because like those elbows are just covers for a drive shaft. The wrist. Is
Actually, we scratch made
coupling.
those. I designed those myself.
That's amazing, dude.
And I designed the mold of how to make them. That mold that made those was 3D printed.
Nice.
Yeah. There's no found parts on that guy, actually. Not a single one.
And everything on it looks like it's made from found parts, though. Like that's the genius of your work.
Actually, that's not true. The leather straps he's holding, those silver boxes are Hammond electric boxes, electrical boxes. They're hobby boxes. Yeah, I mean, which is honestly every prop that's ever been made in the history of humanity has used a Hammond project box. That's like, I mean, every bomb detonator you've ever seen, countdown timer, all that stuff is Hammond, project boxes. That's kind of what they're made for.
Yeah, when I recently worked on Matilda, I had to make Trunchbull has the chokey, and it was made out of one of those project boxes with an industrial LED with the bullet tip on it, and just a big old button. And
I've laser cut a ton of hobby boxes, man.
Yeah.
It's ABS. It's not the best, but they're cheap. You can put little LEDs, countdown timers, batteries, and stuff. So
yeah, and it looks like it was something that was manufactured.
Hmm. And those actually, I think, were the aluminum version. You can get them in aluminum and ABS. I think we also have them in polycarbonate. You can get like clear colors and clear project boxes and stuff like
Yeah.
that. So, good pro tip there: Hammond project boxes.
Hammond
And if
project
you want
boxes.
them to look metallic, but you want them to have like a nice kind of like ethereal sheen, just hit the back of them with a metallic paint.
Oh yeah.
Oh,
Yeah.
let's not even get
Some cool
started
stuff
on,
with
on techniques of prop making. We'll be here all day.
Oh yeah.
Actually, we're here all week.
I was gonna say I've been at it for years. I don't. I mean, like, it never ends.
All right. So, your most favorite prop that you've ever made? Actually, no. Before we do, we never actually got to Alex's horror story.
Oh yeah.
Alex's
Or superhero moment.
Superhero moment.
Yeah, we
When did you
it
save
feels
the day?
Like every day at work,
Yeah.
when they move a timeline.
Oh
Like,
yeah.
maybe
Which
for
is
Sam,
every
when they
day at
move a
work.
Timeline. It's like, oh hey, I was supposed to have an extra week and a half to do this. Oh, you need it tomorrow now? Okay.
So
And then I'm there doing overtime.
You grab all your gear, you jump into your phone box, you change into your spandex, and come out back to work.
Change into my spandex, cry deeply while changing into my spandex.
Wait, you left the phone box to begin with? What?
Honestly, it feels like every day when I get something done feels like a hero moment for me. Just because it like right now, while I'm trying to paint stuff, it is so cold in LA that like paint isn't curing.
Yeah.
2K paints are not curing because it is so cold. So like getting it to cure feels like a hero moment. Just putting paint in a hot water bath makes me feel like a superhero.
Yeah.
So, all right,
Yep.
actually, I just want to touch on that. Like, everyone talks about it. I mean, I know why you put paint in a hot water bath, but those that are listening that really want to know why. What does it do?
Oh, it just heats up your material to a temperature that you can actually shoot and it'll actually cure. Because if it is too cold, it will not cure. If it's too hot, it will not cure.
It also affects the way that it will aerosol from the tip.
Yep.
The pressure in the can changes based on temperature itself.
Oh no,
so.
I'm talking about like when we're mixing it. And
Oh, are
throwing
you
in
doing
PLP or like?
Oh, okay,
shooting
gravity
airbrush.
guns. Yeah, but even,
Yeah.
either way, I mean, aerosol mixture is just affected
Oh, yeah.
by ambient temperature. So.
Yep,
Yeah.
and those I've started using regular heat baths now because it's so cold in our spray booth. But like 3 weeks ago, it was 115 in the spray booth, so there's really no happy medium for me.
I know. It's just last weekend it was like 96 or something down
Yeah.
here. So it's just like. Now I'm wearing slippers when I wake up.
Yeah,
Yep,
200% humidity, and it's like, ugh, I've got to paint in this.
Oh, thank God, we never get that. The most
Yeah,
we get
pass
is
on
like
that.
it's 36 degrees or it's 36% humidity, and we're all walking around in California with our privileged weather, going like, oh, it's so sticky.
I know. I'm from Virginia, where it was very, very humid all the time, and that's the one thing I do not ever miss.
Yeah.
I could deal with 115-degree heat. I can't deal with 90-degree heat and 98% humidity. It's the worst feeling.
Yeah, because at least we can turn on air conditioning, and then the
Yeah.
paint isn't drying on my brush as I'm trying to take it to the piece.
At least you can sweat.
Yeah.
So, that's important sometimes. But
All right, okay.
we used to, when we were painting stuff on the lathe, we used to heat it with a blowtorch ahead of time, and then we would paint it while it was on the lathe. The biggest piece
I'll
of
sit
aluminum
there
or something.
with 2 hair dryers heating up a piece too while I've got stuff in my hot water bath so that it'll lay like a normal thing should.
We had a hot dog roller once for a prop we were building, and our painter co-opted it for the period that we had it, and it had paint cans rolling on. I mean, that's honestly pretty perfect as long as it doesn't
really
get too hot.
clever.
Yeah, because it also will agitate it a little bit. I think you'd probably still need to shake it, but it would still roll it. It'd be nice.
I'm gonna pitch that when I go to work on Monday. Can we get one of those hot dog rollers to heat up my paint can?
Yeah, I'm gonna need one of those in a package of National Hebrews. Don't worry about the hot dogs.
All right, so most favorite prop that you've ever made and seen on screen. That should narrow it down because everyone's got a bunch of favorite props, but as actually seen on screen and been proud of.
Yeah, it's really tough because it's like, am I answering the question based on something I'm proud of making, or am I answering the question because I liked what it was used in? Like I'm a huge fan of John Wick, and I worked on stuff for the John Wick movies.
Just answer part A and then part B. So go ahead.
Yeah, okay. I would say my favorite movie series to work on because I'm a fan of the series is John Wick, like I just said. I love Star Wars to death and all that stuff too, and that definitely is a goal of mine, but I just feel like John Wick was one of the first movie series that kind of touched back on the vibe you would have gotten from some of the classic 80s horror or action flicks, you know, like Die Hard and that kind of thing.
Oh yeah.
And I just feel like that was the first movie that made me feel like I would have imagined my parents would have felt when they were watching those kind of action movies back in the day. So I just kind of like that.
Die Hard meets Kill Bill.
Yeah. So it's just like, I feel like we kind of got into this rut of having really boring, just run of the mill action flicks that were just very, you know, easy
politically
to
correct.
pick apart. Yeah, but this movie was just so ridiculous. I mean, to be founded on the fact that it was just his dog being killed and he went on this like murder rampage.
This bender, yeah.
It's just bizarre, yeah. But
very rational.
Yeah. I think otherwise, I think I'd have to go with the incinerator trooper's flamethrower, just because, again, I said I really love stormtroopers and I always have, and that was something that they didn't have artwork for, so they allowed me to design it, which is something that's more rare than not. Like typically, you know, in a production you'll have conceptual artists that I would consider to be the designers. They're the ones that are, you know, generating the visual look of the props that I have to make. Even if I have to translate them from a 2D picture to real life with electronics and stuff, I feel like I'm not actually designing it. But that one I did get to, and I went to a stormtrooper, and that was fantastic. So that makes me happy. I collect all of the toys that he's featured in now.
So that one there?
Yeah, there you go. Yeah, that's actually a picture of the toy, believe it or not. But I'll tell you what, that toy is I mean, like, take it from the person that designed that weapon. That toy has every little detail possible. Those little clips that connect his hose together, I made those like within the last 15 minutes of that going out the door, because I was like, wait, those things should be held together. So they're just laser cut ABS. They copied those. The straps on the backpack were just laptop bag rubber slips, you know, because we just got a box of that stuff at work. There's something about that I will reveal one day and later on in my career that I think people will find interesting, but I don't want to give it away too early. So
I just love that thing looks so in universe too. Like nothing about it jumps out and feels like it doesn't belong in Star Wars.
Well, thank you. Yeah, I mean, at that point we had already spent a long time working on the droids, and because we did IG-11, we did the interrogator droid, the little hovering black orb guy, EV-99, the bartender droid, and the Jabba's eye. So by that point, I had already gotten used to like all of the parts for this needed to be from Britain from the 70s. Like you've already narrowed it down. So it's actually kind of easy to figure out what some of this stuff was, because you have a very narrow timeline to do it. And also there's so many Star Wars fans out there, they're just obsessed with figuring that out to begin with. It was pretty easy to kind of pick some of those parts out. But when I wanted to do that gun, I was just like, I mean, I'll take elements that already exist, and I'll take stuff that needed to be around in the 70s, and they liked it, so that works. I mean, I only had 4 hours to design it, so we had less than a week to make that. I think we got that on a Monday, and it went out Friday, and the Monday was the day I had to design it. So
damn,
your crunches are so much worse than mine.
Dude, that wasn't even a bad one, honestly. Like, that felt like the reasonable amount of time. I generally get the amount of time I get to work on props is measured in hours, generally. Never days, never weeks. I don't think I've ever had a job that stretched months.
So
I think I spent weeks just doing like color tests.
I'm just going to ask you about this set of goggles here.
Oh yeah, yeah. That's definitely a photo that I guess it's probably fun. Those goggles are fun. I don't know. Typically, the vast majority of the photos I post on there are screenshots, because that's what I feel comfortable posting. This is obviously one that I took. I made those. That was actually a prototype, and I kind of feel comfortable talking about it because from what I recall, they didn't pay for that. So, they asked for a prototype. They asked for a prototype, and then we never heard back. It was in the movie at the end of the movie. So I don't know. That was just a really quick prototype. I actually knocked that out. That was a day build. So I was given the morning to design it and the afternoon to laser cut it and assemble it. But the headband itself was an actual headband from a pair of night vision goggles. And then you can see it kind of clamps up towards the top onto that shape very rudimentarily. And then that's just laser cut acrylic, just different thicknesses stacked up. And it actually lit up. I painted it and lit it up in the one day that I built it. So
that's a one-day build that would make Adam Savage proud.
Oh yeah.
I look at it and I'm like, I'm thinking about like how many different things I'm not happy with, like the bottom rings, the fact that they're all stacked inappropriately. But again, I didn't have that long to make it, so it is what it is. But yeah, that was a fun little build.
So, all right, part B.
I think I didn't. I do part B.
I
Yeah, the
think
part
you
A
covered
was
part
John
B.
Wick. Part B was Incinerator Stormtrooper.
Yep.
So,
Okay, Alex.
Yeah.
You're up.
Yeah. What was A and B?
Favorite prop? Your favorite prop that you built that you've seen on screen.
Honestly, it comes back to that rocket because it was such a nightmare. And then when I saw the whole
Yeah, I was
thing
going to say not the
together-
bucket of chicken, but
No,
Yeah.
that thing's fun.
I think that's pretty cool. That's in space. I mean,
Yeah.
it's pretty neat.
No, it was that rocket though, because like the way that DP shot it, it looked phenomenal, and it was actually a PSA about domestic abuse that aired in Australia.
okay.
Oh, cool.
And it, like, when I saw it, I was like, oh man, it's kind of worth it.
Yeah.
And it was. It like the messaging was really good. Like the way that the whole commercial ran was actually really good. And they made my rocket that I had to slap together in 3 days actually look like it was not the garbage that I know it is.
Yeah, I love that feeling, and I think it's weird because when you start in this industry, and especially if you've ever actually, even if you haven't worked in the industry, and you look at actual screen used props from films, you'll realize that they don't really look that great for the most part. Like we even have a thing in there, the 3-foot rule. That's like a long industry known term that if it looks good within 3 feet, then it's fine for film. So it's like
I've got one right. I've got one right here, Alex.
Like, I don't know, you always look at it through that lens, but you never look at it through the otherwise, where it's like you're worrying about getting all these tiny little details so perfect, when in the end of the day, you're not going to see it. So I think coming to terms with that's probably one of the biggest stress reliefs of working in this industry, is realizing that your standards don't necessarily have to match up to, like, for instance, cosplay. Like somebody walking up to you at a con and looking at it and talking to you about it, and all that, you want it to be great, but you know, I constantly model and do my job based on how I know the camera is going to be situated, just because time is so important. You don't want to be wasting time putting
Yeah, you don't want to be
details on
putting
something
fine
that will
details
never
on
be seen.
something that's in the background somewhere.
Yeah.
Yeah, but then you have some pieces that you add in a ton of detail, because like if you're working under another designer, they want like these specific details.
Yep.
So that like if anyone notices them, they're a really good Easter egg for like later.
Yeah. And sometimes, you know, directors and whoever's setting up the scene they don't know how they're going to shoot it yet. So they just want options. They want every angle to be camera ready because they don't know where that camera is going to be. But, and also, like you're saying, another rule of thumb in this industry is the longer you work on something, the less you're going to see of it. The more effort you put into the details. I mean, if you spent months perfecting the tiniest little detail, it would get cut out of the movie. Guarantee it. Happens every single time.
Someone else will kill your darling for you.
Yeah.
Yes, Murphy's Law.
Yeah, almost everything I worked on for The Mandalorian was shot to pieces. So, literally. In fact, I think the bartender droid's the only one that made it. So IG-11 blew up. The door droid got ripped off. We had to make a stunt piece just for him to do that. I remember they dropped the interrogator droid because we had to repair that. He came in and he's like, "Can you repair this?" I don't know. I guess it broke.
We broke it.
We're like, "Yeah." Well, no, it's never them. It's never them.
No, it's always like it didn't do what
you didn't fasten it. You didn't fasten it properly. The bolt wasn't tightened. So we're like, "Yeah, we'll fix it. No problem."
Enough.
Yeah, we fix it, and then a year later, I'm watching the show, and literally the shot in the show is him falling onto a table. You can see it hit. That thing weighed like 30 pounds. So it's like,
well, he's just going to use it to break the table.
Yeah, so I was like, yeah, it was that bolt that wasn't tightened. Got it. That's cool.
So, all right,
we're gonna fix it no matter what.
But also, like, so much stunt stuff is just made out of like urethane rubber.
Oh, everything. Yeah.
So like you can get some detail into that, but like you're not getting like perfect details in that. Like if you're having to like put grain grips on stuff, like
I would disagree with that. You want to see some good stuff? We've made some really, really, really convincing stuff. We routinely will put it up.
Detail, but like I don't want to sit there and wood grain a bunch of walnut.
Yeah, we do. We do that. Our painter's really good too at it. But we also, I mean, the interesting thing about working in the film industry is, you know, at least coming from cosplay, is you were limited by money for the most part. You had almost as much time as you wanted, but you could, your convention date was a year in the future, but you couldn't necessarily be going out and buying like everything you might need for a job. But it's like the opposite in the film industry. I never worry about money. Never once has someone been like, that's too expensive. And I've seen some ridiculous money spent, absolutely ridiculous. But like the paints, like the paints that we use to paint rubber metal is $300 a quart.
Yep.
Like that's
Is your painter
ridiculous.
Task?
He was for a minute, not anymore. But Task is a great painter.
He's
Task
phenomenal.
is a phenomenal painter. Yeah.
I've never seen anyone do wood grain or like true metallics as good as Task.
Yeah, he's great. Yeah. He did EV99 actually. So he was on IG11 too. But yeah, no, and I think it just sometimes it comes down to those like professional quality materials that really kind of make it stand out like that.
Yeah.
Like the chrome paint that we use is flexible. You can paint it on rubber and it has a mirror finish.
Yeah, I need a quart of that.
Yeah, good luck.
Good luck,
You can buy it. It just costs a fortune. It says $300 a quart, but that's not including the gloss black.
Oh no,
base
it
coat.
jumped up. It's $400 a quart now.
Well, Lumilester is, but we don't use a Lumilester.
Are you using
there's
Moto?
other brands, MotoStorm.
Yep.
Yeah. But and then on top of that, you got to have the paint set up. Exactly. Yeah, that's the
There's
stuff.
one he prepared earlier.
So, yeah. So, but that stuff's great. It's incredible.
Yeah, it's
I can't
phenomenal.
even believe it. So
It lays so phenomenally even.
yeah. I mean, I don't use it personally, but I see what we make with it, and I'm like, that's.
Oh, I do. I use it
incredible.
constantly. It is my
Yeah. Well, it is industry used. So.
Yep.
Yeah.
So, all right. Well, if 10-year-old you could see you today, how nerded out would he be?
Like, you lost weight.
Oh God. 10-year-old me would say the same thing.
10-year-old me was already pushing 300 pounds. So, I mean, I always wanted to work in the film industry, even though I jumped disciplines throughout childhood, like anyone would. I took acting classes and directing classes, and visual effects was kind of my love after middle school. My dad took stop motion class and had fun with that, and then got into animation, and then I don't know, he'd be excited. I certainly never. I mean, shoot, 25-year-old me would be excited to talk to 32-year-old me. Everything changes real quick. It can, at least. I don't know.
Yeah.
Who knows where I'll be next year?
And like
What sort of
random
gutter I'm in.
opportunities show up that like completely change the course of what you're doing.
Yeah, it's true. I mean,
Well,
I don't know. Star Wars, I feel like was something. Yeah. I don't know. Star Wars is something that's pivotal for me because I always feel like Star Wars is something that like changes your resume for some reason. I don't know. I just always noticed that it's just like that one thing on your resume just opens up so many doors, which is so bizarre. I love Star Wars too, but just the fact that it's so ubiquitous. Like if you look at every maker right now that's got a television show or series or something like that, or has some sort of it's like, that's the first thing they say. Oh, model maker, Star Wars prequels, 1999 or whatever. So I don't know. Once I first heard we were getting Star Wars, I was like, man, that'll be fun. Just for that.
I get to pad my resume.
Yeah, I think about that.
This one thing really adds up on your resume more than anything.
I'm pursuing or in talks to pursue a patent in a mechanical design that is totally useless, but I want to do it specifically to say I have a patent in film design. Just for the resume, because most people will read that and then not look much past it. They'll probably ask you, hey, was it ever used? And I'll be like, yeah, the one time I made it, it was used. So, never again.
See this prototype?
Well, coincidentally, Iris's dad is a patent attorney, so I've got a lot
you're
of help in that regard.
So, all right. Is there anything else that out there? Like, for instance, say if I wanted to get into prop making professionally, who would I reach out to? What would I do? How would I go about it? Are there any courses and bits and pieces I could look at that you're aware of that are worthwhile?
You're about to get two very different answers.
Yeah, I don't know. This answer's not gonna. The problem with answering that question is I would have had to have taken one of those routes in order to give you advice on how to take it yourself, if that makes sense.
Now you've got the experience to look back on it and go, well, you could have taken a shorter road if you...
I just can't tell you to be lucky. That sounds a little...
No,
because in terms of my personal experience, that's the advice you're going to have to take. I mean, I could give you some other pieces of advice that I think would help you get there, but this is going to be true for any, I think, job these days. I think one of the biggest things that helped me is showing up in person instead of relying on emails, stuff like I'll just drop into your shop and shoot up a conversation with you about it. That's gotten me jobs. You know, like even for Sony, you know, they offered the ability to do a Skype interview, and I decided to just fly out there for literally just an interview for like an entry level position. And I was told later that that's the reason I got the job, you know, which is weird, but I would say make an effort to show up in person. Yeah. I mean, it's a lot easier to turn someone down on an email than it is. And networking, it really is something I've always maintained, you know, getting in is who you know, staying in is what you know, so it's like networking is important. It's entirely who you know, especially if you're talking about the level of film industry that I work in, like the AAA titles, they only hire within groups that they know. It's all nepotism. Somebody's son, cousin, brother, uncle worked with them at another shop. I mean, like everyone that I've worked with knows everyone at every shop, you know? And it's, you know, if you really wanted to get into literally film and television, live in Los Angeles, there's only 2 shops that do it at certain levels, and then there's other shops within certain specialties. Aside from that, it's who you know. I don't know. I worked with a guy at Sony who knew a guy that worked at an acrylic fabrication shop, who knew a guy that worked at a sign shop, that used to work with a dude that worked in props. That guy was Paul. And then I don't know.
Yeah, and also like jumping onto that, like when you show up in person, also be nice. Like, it's not that hard, because like I've had plenty of people that I've worked with who are just awful, like really mean, cut everyone down every chance they got. I've never seen them again in like the last 11 years since I first started. And if you're like the shop I'm at now, like everyone is massively kind. They're incredibly talented. And like they're super supportive, but also they like I've been trying to force normalizing compliments, because like they're so focused on their work that they kind of can't see like how the grander scale.
What's a compliment?
How excellent work is. So I'll just walk up and just be like, that looks amazing. I hope you're proud of it.
Yeah.
And like because of that, like we give each other gifts now. Like nice. I had some spare 2K urethane that I'd actually left in a cup. So it came out as a puck, and I slapped some googly eyes on it and took a silver Sharpie and drew a little mouth on it and gave it to the head of our body shop. And I was like, his name's Vincent. He needs a home.
Oh, that's funny.
And he'll be up on a shelf somewhere now.
It's just making sure like the people that you're meeting feel like they can be comfortable and be themselves around you.
Yeah. Yeah.
Well, guys, we're probably going to have to, we're coming up on the hour now, so we've got about 3 minutes left. Is there anything you want to tell everybody out there? You know, any secret information on last minute on the panel or anything like that? Just kidding. But no, look, honestly, Nathan, it has been fabulous. So happy to have you on. Alex, as always, fantastic. I mean, you guys are worth every penny. And we haven't paid you a cent. Just kidding. Anyway.
You're not the only one.
So, Alex, you got something to say?
Last words of wisdom, though?
Last words of wisdom.
Make something. Doesn't matter. Even if it's just for you, just make something. Because as long as you're making something, you're getting better at it.
Yeah.
And if this is a thing that matters to you, just keep making stuff.
Yeah. And this is always a weird piece of advice, because I get weird looks, but I get it in every panel I've ever gotten. Hate your work. Just hate it. Because it's going to help you get better at it. You know?
Yeah,
I'm never satisfied. I'm never satisfied with anything I ever build. Maybe once or twice in the years that I've done it now, I've been truly satisfied with something I've made. So there's always room for improvement. I'm not saying hate yourself. Love yourself. But you know, find problems with your work and then figure out how to improve it next time. So,
all right,
problem solving.
Because there'll always be a problem.
Oh yeah, always. Yeah, it's usually somebody else's fault, but.
All right, guys, thank you so much for being part of this, and you know, hopefully we'll get to see you guys again soon. You know, and in a future panel. But I'd just like to close out with thank you again to Millennium Comics. Please go and check them out in the vendor store. And if you don't know where the vendor store is, the link is in the description below. But again, thank you guys so much for joining us, and we'll see you soon.
Awesome. Thanks for watching.
Thanks for having me.
Inconceivable!